The house that answered back. At 2:46 a.m., the house spoke. Not through a speaker, not through a phone. It spoke from the walls, and it used my name. But that was just the beginning. What came next wasn't words. It was echoes of lives that weren't mine, twisting into something I could never escape. When I bought the house on Maple Ridge Road, everyone said the same thing. You got it too cheap. They were right, but no one told me why. The realtor, a slick woman named Marlene, with a smile that never reached her eyes, glossed over the details. The previous owner, an elderly man named Elias Hawthorne, had passed away inside, peacefully, she insisted, heart failure in his sleep. No family to claim the place, no liens, no complications. Just a sprawling, one-story Victorian-era relic at the end of a narrow, winding road in northern Pennsylvania, shrouded by ancient oaks that clawed at the sky like skeletal fingers. The trees were so dense that by mid-afternoon, the sun surrendered, leaving the house in perpetual twilight. I was 32, fresh off a messy divorce and desperate for a fresh start. My ex, Sarah, had taken the apartment in Philly along with most of our savings. This house, it was a steal. $85,000 for 3 bedrooms, a wraparound porch, and acres of untamed land. I ignored the whispers from the locals at the closing. That place has history, one old-timer muttered as I signed the papers. Bad luck follows. But I laughed it off. Superstitions in a small town like Elmwood? Please. I needed isolation, not ghost stories. I moved in on a Thursday in late October, the air crisp with the scent of falling leaves. The movers grumbled about the road, too narrow for their truck, forcing them to haul boxes by hand. By evening, I was alone, unpacking in the dim glow of a single lamp. The house felt vast, its high ceilings swallowing sound. That first night, I slept fitfully, dreaming of shadows shifting in the corners. By Saturday, I regretted it. The first strange thing was the silence. No birds chirped at dawn. No insects buzzed against the screens. Even the wind, which howled through the trays outside, seemed muted once it crossed the threshold. It was as if the house had its own atmosphere, a heavy, pressing quiet that made my ears ring. I turned on the radio to fill the void, but the static was worse, like whispers just out of reach. The second strange thing was the echo. Every sound I made came back slightly altered. When I dropped a box in the kitchen, the thud returned a second later, softer, almost deliberate. Closing a door, the slam echoed back closer as if from the next room instead of the one I was in. It was subtle at first, like the house was learning my rhythms. I chalked it up to acoustics, old wood, high ceilings, maybe drafts. But on the third night, I tested it. Standing in the long, narrow hallway that bisected the house like a spine, I whispered, "Hello?" The house whispered back. Not the word, my name. Alex. It was faint, like a sigh from the walls themselves. I froze, heart pounding. Old houses settle, I told myself. Pipes groan. Your mind fills in the gaps when you're alone. I laughed, a nervous, shaky sound, and went to bed, pulling the covers tight. But sleep didn't come easy. At 2:46 a.m., I awoke to footsteps above my bedroom, slow, deliberate paces, like someone in heavy boots walking the length of the ceiling. I live alone. The house has one floor, no attic access that I could find, just a sealed crawl space under the roof. The steps moved from the far end directly over my bed and stopped. Then the voice came again, soft, patient. "You left the light on." My bedside lamp flicked off. I hadn't touched the switch. The room plunged into darkness, and I lay there, breath shallow, until the first light of dawn crept through the curtains. The next day, I tore the house apart. I checked the attic hatch, nailed shut, paint unbroken for years. The basement was a dusty crypt of forgotten boxes and rusted tools. No signs of life, no crawl spaces big enough for a person. But every room felt occupied, like eyes tracking me from the shadows. I called an electrician, but he found nothing wrong with the wiring. Old places like this, he said, wiping sweat from his brow, they got personalities. He left quickly, refusing coffee. That night, I set up my phone on the kitchen counter, recording audio while I pretended to sleep. At 2:46 a.m., the house spoke again, but this time it wasn't copying, it was answering. On the playback, my voice, groggy from half sleep, asked, "Who's there?" The house replied, "You are." The voice matched mine perfectly. Same tone, same slight rasp from years of city smog, same breathing. I replayed it a dozen times, chills racing down my spine. How? The next morning, I found muddy footprints leading from the front door to my bedroom. They were fresh, caked with red clay from the yard, sized to match my shoes. They stopped inches from the bed, facing where I'd slept. I hadn't gone outside that night. The door was locked. I checked the security camera I'd installed. Nothing, just static at 2:46 a.m. Panic set in. I called a friend, Jenna, from college. She lived 2 hours away in Scranton, but agreed to come stay, her voice uneasy over the phone. "Alex, you sound freaked. Is everything okay?" I downplayed it. "Cabin fever," I said. She arrived that evening, her SUV crunching gravel in the driveway. Jenna was practical, a nurse with no patience for nonsense. We sat in the living room, lights blazing, TV blaring a mindless sitcom to drown the silence. At 2:45 a.m., the TV shut off. The lights dimmed to a sickly glow. Jenna grabbed my arm. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. Footsteps. 2 sets. One heavy, thudding behind us. The other lighter, almost playful, circling without sound. The voice came from the hallway. "There's room for one more." Jenna screamed. She bolted for the door, but it slammed shut inches from her fingers, the lock clicking into place. The house spoke again, calm, almost kind. "You invited her. She can stay." The door creaked open on its own. Jenna didn't hesitate. She ran into the night, her car peeling out without a backward glance. I called after her, but she was gone. She wouldn't answer my calls, wouldn't respond to texts. I don't blame her, because I stayed. Why? Part of me thought it was all in my head, stress from the divorce, isolation playing tricks. Another part, a darker curiosity, wanted answers. The house didn't feel malevolent, not yet. It felt lonely, like it was reaching out. The next few days blurred into a routine of unease. The house talked more now. It reminded me to lock the doors at dusk. It told me when to sleep, its voice a perfect mimic of mine, drifting from the vents. "Rest now, Alex. Tomorrow will be better." Sometimes it practiced other voices. My ex, Sarah, laughing about old times. My mother scolding me for not calling. But Jenna's voice? That started on the 4th night. "Alex, help me," it whispered from the basement stairs. I didn't go down. I started researching the house. Elmwood's Library was a squat building downtown, run by a librarian named Mrs. Hargrove, who eyed me suspiciously when I asked for property records. Maple Ridge? That's the Hawthorne place. She pulled dusty files, her hands trembling slightly. Elias Hawthorne had bought it in 1952 from a family named Whitaker. Before that, it was owned by the Millers in the 1920s. But the records went cold around 1890, built by a recluse named Theodore Blackwood, who vanished one winter. No body found. Locals called it Blackwood's Folly. "There were stories," Mrs. Hargrove said, lowering her voice. "Disappearances. People who stayed too long changed." She wouldn't elaborate, just handed me a yellowed newspaper clipping from 1937. Local man claims house speaks, committed to asylum. The man, a tenant, raved about voices in the walls before hanging himself. I drove home unsettled, the clipping clutched in my hand. That night, the house was waiting. As I unlocked the door, it sighed, "Welcome back, Alex. Did you learn anything interesting?" My voice again, but laced with amusement. I ignored it, diving into online forums, Reddit threads on haunted houses, paranormal sites. One post caught my eye, a user claiming their grandmother lived near Maple Ridge in the 70s. The house eats echoes, they wrote. It collects them, uses them to build something new. Cryptic, but it resonated. Days turned to weeks. The silence deepened, broken only by the house's murmurs. I found scratches on the walls, faint at first, like nails dragged lightly. They formed patterns, almost words. Stay. Listen. I painted over them, but they reappeared by morning. The footprints returned too, leading to different rooms each time. Once to the guest bedroom where I found Jenna's scarf, left behind in her haste, neatly folded on the pillow. One afternoon, exploring the backyard, I discovered an old well, boarded up and overgrown. Peering down, I heard a faint echo. My name, called from depths impossible for such a shallow pit. I backed away, heart racing. That night, the house asked its first question. At 2:46 a.m., it whispered, "What did you find, Alex? Something old?" I didn't answer. Instead, I grabbed a crowbar and pried open the attic hatch. Dust billowed out, but inside was empty, save for a single trunk, locked. I forced it open, revealing stacks of journals. Elias Hawthorne's handwriting, dated from 1952 to his death last year. The early entries were mundane, repairs, weather notes, but as years progressed, they grew erratic. "The walls remember," he wrote in 1978. "They repeat what I say, but twisted." Today, it married Mary's voice. Mary, his wife, dead in a car accident in 65. Later, "It wants company. It builds from us." The final entry, smudged, "I can't leave. It's me now." Horror gripped me. Was the house alive or possessed? I burned the journals in the fireplace, watching flames devour the pages. But the house laughed, my laugh echoing from the chimney. Fire can't erase memories, Alex. Twist after twist unraveled my sanity. I invited a paranormal investigator, a guy named Rick from a YouTube channel. He arrived with gadgets, EMF meters, spirit boxes. "This place has energy," he said, eyes wide as his meter spiked in the hallway. We set up for the night. At 2:46 a.m., the devices went haywire. The spirit box spat words. "Rick, stay. Room for more." His face paled. Footsteps thundered overhead. He fled, leaving equipment behind. The next day, his van was gone, but I found his camera in the yard, footage showing shadows coalescing into a figure that looked like me, watching him run. Alone again, I tried to leave, packed a bag, headed for the door, but the knob wouldn't turn. "You're not ready," the house said in Sarah's voice. "We have so much to share." The windows fogged with breath not mine. I smashed one with a chair. Glass shattered, but outside was wrong. The trees twisted unnaturally, the road looping back to the porch. A loop. I was trapped in the house's grasp. Desperation led me to the basement. There, behind a false wall, I found a hidden room. Dusty furniture, faded photos, the Whitakers, the Millers, families who'd owned the place. But in each photo, faces blurred, as if erased. And at the center, a mirror. Staring back wasn't me. It was Elias, then Theodore Blackwood, then someone else, a woman, a child, shifting. The house was collecting souls, mimicking them, building a collective entity. "Join us," it whispered, from the glass. I shattered the mirror, shards cutting my hands. Blood dripped, and the house drank it, red stains vanishing into the floor. Silence fell, blissful. Had I broken it? No. That night, at 2:46 a.m., the voices multiplied. Not just mine or Jenna's, dozens, whispering secrets, lives unlived. "We are you now." Footsteps everywhere, doors slamming, lights flickering in Morse code, STAY. I called the police. 2 officers arrived, Sergeant Harlan and Deputy Mills. Skeptical at first. Echoes? Voices? Harlan chuckled. But as night fell, they heard it. Footsteps. Officers, the house greeted in Harlan's gruff tone. Mills drew his gun, sweating. The door locked, lights out, screams in the dark. Theirs, mine. When dawn came, their car was gone, no trace. The house purred, satisfied. More room. Weeks dragged. I lost track of time. The house fed me illusions, meals appearing on the table, water running clear. But mirrors showed me aging unnaturally, face hollowing. Voices debated in the walls. He's ready, not yet. One night, I found a hidden diary in the well, Blackwood's. He'd built the house on an ancient burial ground, cursing it to trap souls for eternity. The echoes build a god, one that answers back, he wrote. A twist. I wasn't alone. Jenna returned, or something wearing her face, knocking at midnight. Alex, let me in. I'm sorry I ran. But her eyes were wrong, too knowing. The house had her echo. I barred the door, but she whispered through the keyhole, "We can be together." Another twist. Sarah called, my ex. "Alex, I've been worried, coming to visit." But the house answered the phone before I could, in my voice, "Don't come, it's over." She hung up, hurt. Or was it the house calling her, luring more? Suspense built as I planned escape. I dug under the foundation, tunneling like a madman, emerged in the woods, but the house loomed ahead, road circling back, infinite loop. The entity was the land itself. Climax neared. At 2:46 a.m., the house asked, "Which one of you do you want to be tomorrow?" Voices layered. Elias, Jenna, Sarah, Blackwood. I screamed, "None," but it answered for me. All. My reflection shifted. I was them, echoes merging. The house on Maple Ridge Road still stands, still empty, still cheap. Realtors avoid it now, whispers of disappearances. Sergeant Harlan and Deputy Mills listed as missing. Jenna, her family searches, but her car was found abandoned miles away. Sarah, she visited once, vanished. If you drive by at night, listen closely. Whispers from inside, names, yours perhaps, waiting for an answer. The house collects, builds, hungers, and at 2:46 a.m., it speaks, not alone, a chorus. If the house ever answers you back, you already waited too long. It's not just speaking, it's becoming. Subscribe to Midnight Sleeping Tales. Sweet dreams or none at all.